F1 2023. Definitely better to play sitting down with a wheel for a better experience. Then it is fun with the controller, but it's just not as good as using a wheel. But this is the Thrustmaster SF1000, the full colour, all singing, all dancing wheel with multi-displays and all sorts of stuff. LED lights, the whole shebang. Really, really cool. But is it actually better than using a standard kind of wheel like this, the Thrustmaster one? I mean, one of the important things about F1 racing and driving games in general is picking the correct size diameter wheel. This is the exact same size diameter as the SF1000. So my question is, does this considerably cheaper wheel, which has a very similar feel about it, I mean it's got nice clicky paddles, not as satisfying as these ones on this for sure, but it's still got a similar sort of feel. In fact, this one actually feels quite nice with a slight curve to it. But I'm going to compare it to that, and I'm also going to compare it to a more standard size round wheel. Most people aren't going to have an F1 wheel. Unless you're really into F1, you're still going to have a generic round wheel which you use pretty much for all your games. What I'm looking for is basically driver satisfaction. I'm no expert driver, all I'm looking for is what immerses me the most, what actually makes me forget I'm playing a game, which wheel actually engrosses me more in the game, and just as importantly makes me feel like I can drive a bit better using it. Do all the lights, all the effects of this wheel actually make a difference? Like this one here, it's the same diameter, it's not as flashy, it's not got a display, anything like that, but when you're racing, most of the time you're going to be looking at the screen, and you can get a lot of the information which is on that screen on the on-screen anyway. So is there actually any point to all this stuff on here? Let's give it a go. Do you not like touching my SF1000 with human hands? Must use gloves. Sorry Max, can't be Max Verstappen, it's just not a thing. Let's give this a go. Auto gears for this. One thing I'll notice straight away is, even though I'm not looking at the screen all the time, it's in your peripheral vision, so you're fully aware of it. And it does add, to the game. And you can put a lot of this information, or all of it, on the screen at the same time. I said I wasn't no expert, I'm just showing this for the pure enjoyment of what a wheel makes me feel most alive in the game. And this does feel amazingly nice in your hands, it really does. And one thing that's really apparent with this wheel as well is the fact that I think Thrustmaster knew most people are going to be using this wearing gloves. The buttons are a little bit firmer to press than a normal button, but they feel really satisfying, and it completely works with gloves. I've literally only just got this game, so I'm not sure what difficulty the AI is on, but I'm not doing anything special at all. This is my first ever race, I think, on this track, on this game, and the opposition is nowhere in sight, but yeah, it feels really, really nice using this. I'm going to pause now and switch over to the open wheel and see what we make of that, because in theory you'd think it should be pretty much the same experience. Well, so now switched over to the open wheel. Let's do a couple of laps with this.
Good job, that was the fastest lap of the race so far.
What's really strange straight away, and I wasn't expecting this, is even though this wheel is the same diameter, it feels completely different. Really weird. Not necessarily in a bad way, it's completely fine, but it just feels totally different. I mean, the shape of the handles is slightly different on this. This is curved. On the SF1000 it's nearly straight. but I'm not feeling the same amount of immersion with this wheel. Several things are contributing to that, I think. First of all, even though you're not looking at the display on the SF1000 all the time when racing, you're kind of aware that it's there and you're seeing the LED lights and the full colour display all the time, and it really adds to it. I wouldn't go as far as I'm daydreaming now while using this wheel, but I'm not as immersed. It's still good, it's still a good experience. But what I'm saying is, even though this is the same size wheel, so the driving characteristics are very much the same. You're turning the wheel the same amount to go around corners and things like that. With a much bigger wheel, it would feel much more like you're trying to steer a bus around an F1 course. That is still the same, but the force feedback that's translated through this, I don't feel is quite as good as the SF1000, which is to be expected. It's a much more expensive wheel. It's made of different materials, so that's completely fine. But it's the lack of immersion which is most noticeable to me. The fact that it's all over the place. The fact that I'm missing all that display. So I do look at it, even though you can get it on the screen. I do tend to look at it on the wheel. And once you get used to that, it feels like you're really missing out. If you've never experienced that and have only got a wheel like this, or your standard wheel that you use, so it's kind of a case of what you don't know, you don't miss, you'll probably be fine. The trouble is, once you have a go with the SF1000, it doesn't kind of feel like there's any going back in a way. Right, let's switch over to the other wheel now. Now, before anybody says anything, I know this is not going to be as good as those other two wheels. This is a great wheel for Gran Turismo 7 and things like that, for those kind of cars that are in there for most cases. But this is slightly bigger than those F1 type wheels there and the open wheel. And the wheel diameter is super important. The thing is with F1 cars is you need the wheel to be the correct diameter, as when you make those quick movements you need the car to respond immediately. If you imagine the wheel to be a lot bigger, I mean diameter wise, let's exaggerate the wheel to that. If you made a quick motion like this, with this wheel this size, it's hardly going to affect the car at all on the F1 games. If you have a much smaller wheel, that quick movement is much more responsive for the F1 car. So I already know that even though this wheel isn't that much bigger, and it's not, let's compare. If I put it right to the edge, this side, you can see there's not much in it. But what's astounding to a lot of people is how different this feels when playing a game. It doesn't look much, but trust me, this is going to feel like driving a bus compared to those other wheels. Already the first two movements of the wheel, I feel like I'm having to turn it a lot more to get the same reaction. But what that means is in the game, because you're having to do a lot more, the car's not responding as quickly, because it takes longer to turn your hand from there to there as it does from there to there with the F1 wheel, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I'll now have to work the wheel a lot more through these corners to get the same turning circle. Before, I'd have had to just move my hands a lot less. I mean, if a bigger wheel is all you've got, then you'll probably be fine, because you'll have adjusted to it, you'll have adapted to it, that's what you're going to be used to. If you've got a wheel like this, you'll generally be fine with it, like I say, because it's all you know, which is fine. But once you move to an F1 wheel, or an F1 size diameter wheel, then you're going to notice a monumental difference. And once you experience that, there's absolutely no going back. And more so with the SF1000, because it's just such a lovely thing to hold. It just feels so nice. All those extra lights, all the extra display, all the switches and stuff aren't there for show. It really, really does add to the experience. See, this overall has been a bit of a surprise to me. I actually thought that the open wheel would kind of show in a way that you don't really need all those lights and gimmicks on the SF1000, but it actually did the opposite. It actually showed me that the SF1000 is not a gimmick. All those lights and stuff aren't there for show. They actually do make a major difference. And for me, that makes it utterly worth it. So, all right, mate. Getting a bit carried away. It's a beautiful looking thing as well. It looks absolutely gorgeous. I've had it for quite a while now. And every time I'm not using it, it goes on the wall with a cloth over it to make sure it doesn't get any dust and stuff over it. You kind of covet this thing like it was a truly marvellous bit of kit. And it is. I think for what these cost, I think this a bit of a bargain, really, to be honest. I mean, if you could buy, I forget which year this was, I think it might have been the 2020 or 2019 replica Ferrari wheel. Like virtually identical to the wheel that's in the actual Ferrari F1 race cars. And if you could buy a replica of that for less than £300 or dollars, wherever you come from, I think that would seem like a bit of a bargain, especially if it was made from carbon fibre and had all the switches and working dials and stuff. The fact that this actually plugs in to a game system, has a working display, all these switches work in the games, it was just an absolute bargain for me. I absolutely love it. But anyway, this wasn't meant to be a SF1000 review, it was more of a comparison about whether those other wheels were better to play F1 2023 with, and I can tell you they absolutely are. Absolutely love it. I mean, it was good with this wheel. If it's all you've got, you're still going to be fine with it. A slightly bigger wheel is not going to give you the response time, the quickness of movement as with a F1 style diameter wheel. That's absolutely for sure. That's just basic physics. The bigger the wheel, the more turn you have to put into to get the same response from a much smaller wheel. Conclusion is, yes, the SF1000 is absolutely awesome. And even if you've got an F1 style wheel, like the old style F1 wheel, before this one came out, there was a previous, more basic version of the F1 wheel. There's no comparison to this. I've used that wheel, and when I went to this one, it was just like infinitely better, absolutely hugely better. So there it is, there's a video. I'm not going to waffle on anymore. I've waffled on long enough. I'm going to have my cup of tea and play some F1. But not with this. It's going to be with that, because it's absolutely fantastic. But there's a video. If you enjoyed it, bash that like and subscribe button. It really does help. By the way, I don't know if I've ever said it before, but I built and designed this cabinet myself. Recently I added this gear shifter. Really nice for Gran Turismo and rally games, things like that. But there it is. There's a video. Thanks for watching. Catch you again next time. Bye for now.